Alright guys, welcome to day 2 of our HTML and CSS summer bootcamp. And just a quick reminder before we move on, we are building out this travel agency landing page. It's a really beautiful landing page with lots of information that we can learn from. And so far we have tried to set up the navigation bar. We were not able to complete it in our session yesterday, but we will be completing that today. And look at the progress we have made. We have the logo as well as the navigation links already set up, but so far it's still not looking like what we would have expected. So we would be continuing with our designs in today's session. Now walk with me. Firstly, taking a look at the design, I think it's high time we begin to space out the text. Currently, the text, they all look folded together. Now let's try to space out the text. To do that, let's take a look at the structure of our links. Taking a look at the structure of our links, we could notice that all the text of our navigation, and I already have my anchor tag selected. Remember, from our last class, we took out the underlines and we made sure that the color changed from purple to black. So right here we can define more styles, and the first one I'd like to define is padding. Now padding is referred to as the space inside an element. Now the distance between the border and the exact element itself is called padding. So I'll be creating paddings for my links, and you can create paddings with different values. So I'll be using 60 pixels. Of course, it's not a given. You always have to try these numbers out. All we need to focus on is the fact that we need to call padding. And of course, there are various types of paddings. There's the padding top, there's the padding bottom, there's the padding left, and also there's the padding right. They just mean adding space to the left, to the right, to the top, and to the bottom of your element. But here I'll be using just padding, and this means something very interesting. It means adding 60 pixels of space all around. Adding 60 pixels of space all around. Now let's take a look at what our website looks like now. To do that, let me do this with Live Server. I've installed an extension from the Visual Studio Code marketplace called Live Server. All you need to do is come to the extensions, type the name Live Server and click on install, and you'll be able to do exactly what I've done. So I would be clicking on this and I will click on select open with Live Server. There we go. Now I think this is looking nice. It's looking better, but we still have a bit more things to do. We still need to reduce the size of the image, and we need to give a bit more space at the top. But first, let's add a bit more space at the top. To do that again, we need to pay attention to our structure. Now back at the structure, notice how we have a div containing all the links. Now again, just a reminder, like I said yesterday, a div is a container. It helps us group elements in HTML. Now we've been able to group the navigation links. All we need to do now is pull that group down slightly, just slightly. And to do that, let's go. Now I do not have the div already selected in my styles, so I'm going to be selecting that div, and I'll be adding a bit of margin to my div. So I'll be adding margin at the top, and as you know, Margin is the space around the element. So what I want to do is add a space at the top of all these elements. Notice how it's going to add the space once and for all. So let's do that. And I want to add a margin of say 20 pixels. Again, you can try the numbers out. So let's see. Notice how it's giving me a lot more space from the top and it's pushed it down. I think 20 pixels might be a lot, so let's reduce it, say 15 pixels. 15 pixels should be perfect. Good. Now this looks great. And we switch focus to the logo. Now for the logo, it's a lot bigger than we were expecting. So we have to reduce the size. And to do that, again, let's take a look at our HTML. Now, back at the HTML, we can see that the logo is being rendered with the help of the image tag. So to style the logo, I'll need to call the image tag in my CSS. I'll just go straight to the CSS, and again, I'll call the image tag img, and I'll open the parentheses, the curly brackets, so I can define styles for my logo. And the first style I want to define is the width. So I'll spell out width, and I want my width to be 80 pixels. Of course, again, you can play around with these numbers just so until you get the desired results. You can play around with the numbers, but I think 80 pixels should be pretty much good. And now let's take a look at the height. I think it's a little too tall, and I'll be reducing the height as well. So the height should be say 30 pixels. So I'll give it a height of 30 pixels. If I reload, now it's looking a lot better. It's looking a lot better. Now let's take a look at our desired result. We still have a bit of some way to go, because taking a look at the design we have and our results so far, there are two things missing from our navigation. One is the type of fonts. This is a basic font called Times New Roman, and it doesn't match with this. So that means we have to change it. And secondly, for the sign up button, we have it looks like a button, and we have to make this design work as well. So we're going to be doing both of them right now, and just walk with me. First, to change the font, we need to note that the fonts with about 12 fonts in CSS. Let's take a look at those fonts. To check them out, we'll have to use a property called font family, and there are about 12 fonts in CSS, and none of them gives me this exact result, because the type of font this is Montserrat. And if you take a look at the fonts currently available in CSS, let me do that one more time just so we can take a look, would notice that we do not have the Montserrat font. What we have at best is monospace. So it means we have to find a way of changing that font. And interestingly, we have to note that if you take a look at the design, the Montserrat font is a global font. It's used everywhere in my design. So we could simply just add that Montserrat as part of the font family for our body, so it takes effect on every element that we're going to be adding in our HTML. But first, let's download the Montserrat font. To do that, we have to go to Google Fonts. you can simply type the words Google Fonts in your browser, and the first result that pops up is definitely the link to Google Fonts. So selecting that. Now Google Fonts is a repository of different fonts that you would like to use in your project that are not currently available to CSS. And you can see there are loads and loads and loads of fonts. But the one we actually want to use for today's class, like I said, is Montserrat. So I'll be searching that out. It's called Montserrat. Good. Now, these are the results of the Montserrat family fonts, and I'll be taking this. I'll be selecting this particular variant of the Montserrat family. So to select, I'll click on it, and I can see the styles I currently have. So I can select the various styles of Montserrat of this particular family I want in my project. But I want the 400. Yeah, the regular 400. This is what I want. So having clicked on that, now I can click on Get Fonts. You can see I already selected the family, so I can click on Get Fonts. Now, there are two ways of embedding these fonts in our project. First, you could either download it or you could use an embedded code. I'm going to be using an embedded code, and I'll tell you why. Downloading it is also very good, but it makes our project slightly heavier because you're going to be adding something with its own size into your project. Whereas embedding with the code makes our project a lot lighter, making it easier to load for our browsers. So that's why I'll be embedding the code instead of downloading it, but you can totally download it if you think that's best. Now I'll click on embed, and now we have the links to embed the code. Now, to embed the code, we have two options. We can either embed it in HTML or you can embed it in CSS. Take a look. Now, but I'll be going with the HTML part. It's just choice. It's just preference. It's nothing more than simply choice. You could totally use the @import or you could totally use the link tag, but I'll just be using the link tag. To do that, I'll simply copy the code right here, and my task would be to embed it in the HTML. And here's what I'll be doing. I'll go right to the HTML, and now I'm going to embed the links. Can you see the links? Embedded already. Okay, I think there's a bit of an error here. Fixed. Perfect. Now I just copied the link and pasted it in the head section of my HTML. What this helps us to do is it makes your HTML aware of the presence of a new font that is not currently available in CSS. Now, to make use of this font, all I need to do is go back to the CSS and specify the exact font family. Let me show you how to do that. Now I'll be in my CSS, and right here in the body I'll be specifying the font family in the body because I want that font family to be global. What I mean is I want every single element, every single text element in my HTML project to have the same font family of Montserrat. So that's why I'll be putting that in the body. Now I'll come here and I'll say font family, and the font family would be Montserrat. I hope I spelled it correctly. Now let's take a look. I'll open with live server. Here we go. Notice how the fonts have actually changed. And we can even make the font a little thicker. If you want, you could add the other variants of the Montserrat font family so that you can make it thicker. But I think this is just perfect like this. Again, if you have any questions, if you're confused about anything, or if you want to learn more about this, please leave a comment in the comment sections below, and we'll do well to get back to you, get feedbacks. Now, another glance at our design, and we still have a bit of work to do. Notice how we have a border around a single navigation link, the sign up link. And currently we do not have that. So we are going to be building that in today's class. To do that, let's take a look at again the structure of our HTML. Now, back at the HTML, everything here have got the same anchor tags, but on our result we have something different with the sign up. So what we do is assign an identifier. IDs are short for identifiers, which helps us to specifically single out the exact element we are referring to. So I'm going to be assigning an identifier called sign up as an ID to the sign up anchor tag. Now, to do what we so that why I'm having this sign up is so that I can specifically single out the sign up link and give it a border. Now back to my CSS, I can call on the sign up, but it's an ID, so I have to add a prefix, and the prefix would be the hashtag or the pound sign, which indicates an ID. It makes HTML understand that the name after the pound sign or the hashtag is an ID, and the ID is sign up. Let me double check so I can be sure. That's correct, sign up. And now I'll open my curly brackets so I can begin to define styles for my sign up button. Now the first style I'm going to be adding would be a border. So to do that, I need a border property, and this border property takes in 3 values. Notice that the other properties we've been adding in CSS have only ever taken a single value. From the background had just a URL, the font family had Montserrat, text decoration none, and the likes all the way down. But the border property can take as much as 3 values. Now the first value would be the thickness of the border, so I'm going to make it 1 pixel. Now the second value would be the style of the border, so I'm going to make it solid. And the last one for me would be the color of the border, and for us that would be black. Great. Now let's take a look at what we've been able to do so far. Notice how the border appears, but it's looking really rough. What that means is we still have work to do to this border to make it look really nice. And earlier on we spoke about padding, and I said padding was padding is the space inside the element. Now this is going to make us understand what this is going to make us understand padding in details. As you can see, we have a lot of space within the element. This element is the anchor tag. We have a lot of space within that element, and we have to reduce that. And to do that, we'll go back, seeing that we have the sign up button, we have to add padding to the sign up button. Now I'll probably want a padding of say 10 pixels. No, let me say 15 pixels. Again, you can play around with these numbers till you get a desired result. Now I've added a padding of 15 pixels. Now let's see what that gives us. Wow, looking good, right? But then again, the edges of our borders is a bit too sharp. Notice how blunt these edges are. So the edge of my border has to be blunt as well. And to do that, I need a border radius. Now back in my sign up ID in my CSS, I could also add another property called border radius. Now border radius helps us specify the curves around our border. So I'm going to have border radius, and we can play around with numbers again. Let's say 20 pixels. This is going to be too much, but let's say 20 pixels. Let's see what 20 pixels looks like. Wow, that's a lot. So let's reduce that to say 5 pixels. I think 20 pixels, it's too much. Let's see what 5 pixels gives us. Better. Now this looks good, looks perfect, and we are ready to go. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave your comments down below in the comment section, and we'll get back to your comments. Okay. All right. So let me make this a bit bigger, and then we can go back to our design and we can complete the other steps of the design. So let me try to make this bigger. Computer a bit non-responsive. Okay, good. There we go. Now, taking a look at our design, we are back to trying to finish up with the hero section. Now this part is called a hero section on most websites. Now today we learned something new. It's called a hero section, and we're going to be building this out, at least structuring it out in today's session. Are you ready? Now walk with me. So just a second. Let me make this. Okay. Okay, great. Now I'm sure we can all see the designs. Great. Now let's try to build out our hero sections. But first, we need to take a look at the design, understand the design, and begin to dissect the design. All right, now I'll go back to the design, and I'll give us a bit of time to take a look at the design, and then we'll break it down in bits before we go to creating it in HTML. Great. Okay, so I think I'm not quite sure we can see my screen entirely. Please, if you cannot see a part of my screen, please leave a comment in the comment section down below, so we can make proper adjustments and you can get to see my entire screen. Okay, I just zoomed it out just so that you'd be able to see my entire screen. And please, if that's still not working, please leave a comment and we'll be able to take note of that and make the proper adjustments. Alright, now that we've taken another look at the hero section, let me break down what I see from this hero section to us. And that's going to help us out in structuring our HTML. Taking at the hero section, I see two main sections. First, a section having all the texts and buttons, and the second section having the image. Now, we're going to be building out the hero section in steps, but first, let us create the section. Now, back to our HTML. We're done with the nav, but still inside of the body, we would be creating the hero section. And to do that, we need a tag called the section tag. Of course, you can use a div tag, and that's because the div is also a container. But for semantic purposes, I'll choose the section tag instead. So I'm going to have the section tag. Great. Now, the very next step is to define the size of this function, of this section rather. Now, the reason why we need this to define the size of the section is because, just like the div tag, the section is also a container. And if we do not define the size of a container, it's only going to take sizes of what we put in it. To make us understand, let me just do a brief demonstration. I'm going to write h1, and I'm going to write a text called "This is my size." Now let me add a background color to that section, just so we can see. And if I say section, I try to add a background color, say yellow. Let's take a look at what that gives us. Notice how the section the background is only for the height of the text. If I add more text, the height of the section increases. Second text. And if I go back, take a look at the result, notice that the height of the section also increases, and we don't want that. We want a defined section. So to do that, we need to specify a particular size. I will take this out because we don't want this. Great. And now in my CSS, I do not want the background, because right now you won't even notice the background because we do not have a style. We do not have a size for the section. That's why you do not notice the background color. But the moment I add a height to the section, if I had a height of say 100 view height. Now view height is another unit for measurement for programming is used to measure the height. So 100 view height simply means my entire screen. Let's take a look. Notice what 100 view height looks like. See? Now the background color appears everywhere in my section, which is good. But again, we do not want the background color of yellow. Instead, we have a background image. Take a look. Okay. Instead, we have a background image which we have already added. So all we need to do now is begin to break down our sections. Now this is the first part of my section where I have all the texts, and the second part is where I've got the images. Now let's break that down into the sections. To do that again, right in my HTML, I'm going to have two divs. So I'm going to say div, and I'm going to have another div. Now the first div, I'm going to give a class name. Now that is because I want to be able to identify the div anytime I want to style. So I'm going to give it a class of right. Oh, this is going to be left. So it's going to be the left div. And the second one, I'm going to give a class name of right div. And again, if you take a look at our result, we wouldn't have noticed anything different. But right now, it's time to begin to fill out our left div. We have text, and the first text looks very thick. So it means we'll be using a text tag. And to write this best destinations around the world, I'll be using the H3 text tag right here. Alright, H3, and it says in capital letters, best destinations around the world. Good. Great. Now the next piece of text we can see is a lot larger. It's a whole lot bigger than the first one. So for this, that says travel, enjoy and live a new and full life, I'm going to be using a different text tag called H1. So I'll be using a H1 tag, and this is going to say travel, enjoy and live a new and full life. Travel, enjoy and live a new and full life. Now so far, let's take a look at our results. Looking good, but we still have a lot of styling to do. But first, let's take a look at this. It says travel, enjoy and live a new and full life. Notice how the text travel and enjoy are first place, and then and live a new and full life next place, and one after the other. But take a look at our result. Travel, enjoy and live a new and full life all placed side by side. would like to do something about that. And to fix that, we'll need to add break tags. Now, break tags helps us create new lines in HTML. So we'll be adding break tags immediately after enjoy and immediately after new. So to do that, we'll go back to HTML and immediately after enjoy, we'll add a break tag spelled BR, and immediately after new, we need another break tag BR, another break tag. And if I go back and take a look at my result, we should be arriving at something very interesting. But we still have a lot of work to do. But so far, we are making good progress. Again, I'd like to remind us, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment in the section down below. Now, we still have a bit of text to add. It says, build wicked, longer admire. It's a lot of text. I'll just copy it. Build wicked, longer admire, do button, vanity itself, do in it, preferred to sportsmen, it engross, listening, park, gate, sell the West Hartford. It's a long text. It's a long text, and everything would be good. So to do that, if you take a look at the text, it's smaller than the other ones. So it means we have to use a text tag that will give us smaller text, and that would be the paragraph tag. So to do that, I'll come back here and just underneath where I have travel, enjoy, I'm going to use paragraph tags. And it's a long text, so I'll just have to try to copy that out. Say build wickets, longer admire, do button. So I'm just gonna build wicket, longer admire, do button, vanity itself. Do button, vanity itself. Okay. Do in it, prefer to sportsmen itself. Do in it, full stop, referred to sports men. It engross listening, park, gate. It engrossed listening, park, gate. And last few lines of the text. Sell the West Hart for thee. Wow. Sell the West Hart for thee. Now, let's take a look at what we have been able to create so far, because right now we have actually added that small text. Well, let's take a look at what it looks like now before we make any further changes. Let's take a look. Great, looking good. But if you take a look at our design, we still need a couple of break tags. In fact, we might be needing as many as 2 break tags. The first break tag has to come after it, and the second break tag has to come after gate. So let's add them. So after it, we need a break tag BR, after them, okay, let's see where the second one comes. After gate. So after gate, we have another break tag. Now, again, as we all know, take a look at the result, and it's looking good. Two more things to add. We still need to add the buttons. Now we have two buttons. One says find more, and the other one actually has an image. It actually has an image. So the first button we'll be adding is to say find more. But take a look. We already explained yesterday that HTML is a block level programming language. So if we go right to adding our buttons the way we expect to add them, we would have created something a bit difficult for us to style. But let me show you what I mean. I'll be creating the buttons first, still in the left div. Now, the first one is going to be having the text. Let me use an anchor tag. It's going to be having the text find more, find out more, find out more. And the second button should have the text, hold on, play demo. Play demo. Now, if I had used a button element in place of an anchor tag, it would have appeared one above the other. But look at the way it appears now. Notice how they appear side by side. But if I'm to replace find out more and play demo with actual buttons, they would appear one above the other. Watch. If I take this out and I use a button element, and I say find out more, and I replace that as well with another button element that says play demo. Take a look at how they appear. So now we'll go right back to fixing our buttons. So we'll go back, we're having the anchor tags, and I have find out more as my first button. More, and another anchor tag that says play demo. But again, notice how the anchor tag that says play demo actually has an image embedded inside. Let's take a look. It has a play button embedded inside in the image. So we have to do that. And to do that, we have an image of that button here. There are various ways of doing the same thing, but we have an image of the button right here. So, and as we already learned from our yesterday's session, that to add an image, you need an image tag. So I'm going to be adding the image tag right in line with, right inside the anchor tag. So I'll write img and allow Visual Studio Code auto complete it for me, and I'll be writing my source. And again, remember what we said about the source and the links. You use // to indicate look within the current folder. So I need assets, and the name of my image is play button. Now let's take a look at what we have. Great. Looks a bit okay, but we have a lot of styling to do for the buttons as well as the anchor tags. But first, let's make sure that this button looks good. Now, to make sure this button looks good, we need to change its height and width. But let's change the height first. Now, we already have an existing image tag here. So what this means is whatever styles we have added for this image tag is going to affect this one here as well, and we do not want that. So instead, we would be giving this image a class. So I'm gonna make this a class of logo. And I'll be going right back to my style.css, and instead of styling all of this with the image tag, I'll be using the class logo. All I need to do is indicate the full stop, which indicates class, just like the hash or pound sign indicates ID. The full stop or period sign indicates class. So I'm going to have logo. And let's take a look at what we have to be sure we have made the correct change. And yes, there we have it. Looking good. And you can see we've made great change to our designs. Now let's try to style this find out more button, and then we'll come right back to try to style the play demo button. Take a look. Now this is our expected result. So let's style the find out more button really quickly. Now back here, because we want to specify specific styles for find out more, we need to style it slightly differently. Now we need to give it a class name of something else. Maybe let me call it find. You can actually give it any class name at all, it's fine. Just make sure it's a text and not numbers or special characters. So I'll just call mine find. And the first thing I'm going to do to my class of find is to give it a border. Now I'll take out the border as well later on, but first let me give it a border just to see what it looks like. So to style my find class, I have full stop find, and I open the curly brackets. Now I'm going to give it a border, like I said, 1 pixels. The next property, the border style, which is solid, and let me give it a black border. Now let's take a look at what we have. Okay, I think we have a bit of a glitch, and that's coming from here. Let me see. Let's take a look. Okay, the class find is with capital F, and I wrote the small f. It should be small f. Let me confirm that. Okay, this should be perfectly fine now. Great. So it's important to mention that we also need to be careful about our case. That was just a small glitch. I had capital F instead of small casing F, and we had a bit of a problem. So now we are able to see the border around the button called find out more. Now let's style it and style it properly. We have too much space, and we also have to specify a background color for that. So but first, let's specify the background color. Now the background color should be yellow. So I have a background color of yellow for my button. See, great. And the color of my text should be white, just like we have here. Just like we have here, it should be white. So to do that, I'll go right back here and then specify the color property and say white. Now let's take another look. Now it should be white, but our text is still small, so we need to make it a bit bigger. Now, in as much as the text is Montserrat, we still can make the text bigger by affecting its font size. So if I go here, back still in the find class, I can call the font size property and let me make it 30 pixels. This is just a test figure. You can this fits perfectly fine, looks perfectly fine, except we need to reduce its padding. We need to reduce its padding. To reduce its padding, go right back to the find and we can specify padding. And the padding should be, say, 15 pixels. Now let's take a look. Looks good, but I believe we need a bit more space on the sides than the top and bottom. So now we definitely need to specify padding individually. By individually, I mean we need to specify padding top, padding bottom, padding left, and padding right. Now, earlier on I explained that specifying paddings in this manner simply means we're adding 15 pixels of space from the top, bottom, left, and right. But instead, I would want to specify the paddings individually. And I'm going to show us two ways of doing that. So I can say padding top. So the first way, padding top, you could specify padding top as, say, 20 pixels. And we can specify padding bottom, say 20 pixels as well. And you can specify padding left, say 30 pixels, slightly bigger. And we can also specify the padding on the right to be 30 pixels. Now let's take a look at our button. Take a look. It looks way better and a lot more closer to what we expect. But there's another way of specifying this. Now, instead of saying padding top, bottom, left, and right, we could simply have padding, and in a clockwise direction, the very first value of padding would be the value for padding top, and that would be 20 pixels as specified. And if we leave a space, it means the very next value for padding in a clockwise manner would be the padding on the right hand side, and that should be 30 pixels. And if you leave another space, the padding on the bottom comes next, and that's another 20 pixels. And one more space means the padding on the left hand side comes last, that's another 30 pixels. Now I can do that instead of this, saving me a lot of space with my code. Perfect. And we still have the same exact result. Now, it's time to take out the border and make it a little bit more curved, as we can see here. And what that means is we need to add two properties, the border none, and we need to specify values for the border radius. Now, firstly, let's take out the border radius. So I'm going to specify a border radius having a value of 10 pixels. Again, the value of 10 pixels is, you can play around with it and see what different values gives you. Let's take a look. It's looking good, but now let's try to take out the border. Now I can also have a value of border. Hold on. Okay, I think 10 pixels. It's a bit too small. Let's make that 15 pixels. Great. 15 pixels looks good, and the color is a bit darker than yellow, so that should be orange. So let's make that orange instead of yellow as well. We'll take yellow out and we can make that orange. And another important thing to note, we can actually adjust the color scheme from this point in our VS Code. So now let's take a look. Should be close. Perfect. Good. Great work. Now, one more property, we need to take out the outline, and we might not notice too much effect by taking out the outline, but it's a very important thing to do so that we don't get that outline effect. Outline none. Okay, notice now if you click on this, you don't get any outline effect at all. Great. Good job. So far we have been able to add a lot of work. I've been able to do a lot of work with our website, and it's looking good. But we still have a few more things to do before we wrap up. Now we still have to style this play demo button. We also have to add the image that we can see on the right hand side, and we have to make sure that everything we have here are not only centered but have the exact same colors as we have here. Now, but because of time, we'll be moving that to our very next live session, which comes up tomorrow, same time. So please stay tuned, and I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow, where we'll be wrapping up and completing this project, the travel agency landing page. Thank you for tuning in, and see you guys tomorrow.